Have you back on the program?
Great to see you, Tavis.
Good to see you again. First of all, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, shouldn't you be training for... Why are you out promoting a field when you're about to run a marathon?
Exactly. You know, I either wake up early or get in my miles before dinner, right?
Yeah, so you're running the New York Marathon?
New York Marathon on November 1st, yes.
First time?
First time,
yeah.
You've done a few.
I've done a few. I've done and completed, I might add. Don't ask my times. We're not going to talk about that. But I've completed 3 of them. I did the LA Marathon 3 times. I've done that before. But why? Thank you. Why are you doing this one?
I'm actually doing this one for an environmental cause, an organization that works on African conservation issues and community development issues that I've been involved with for many, many years. And I'm on the board of. And we decided, instead of doing sort of dinner party fundraisers this year, that we were going to do something that engaged the people we work with in Kenya more directly. And since Kenyans are great runners, we decided to form a team, a charitable organization team for the New York Marathon. So the organization is called the Maasai Wilderness Conservation Trust, and we work with Maasai in the Maasai tribal areas on conservation and development issues. And 3 of the Maasai warriors from the community we work in are coming over to run the marathon with me. Yeah.
Now, there's Kenyan time and there's American time.
Yeah.
If you run this marathon in Kenyan time, I'm going to be very impressed.
And if the Kenyans run on American time, they won't open their mouths or sweat or anything. It'll be like a stroll. Yeah. They'll call it the New York Stroll.
Yeah, those Kenyans can move. Well, congratulations in advance.
Thank you. Well, like you, I'm looking to finish with honor.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
I didn't say I finished with honor. I just said I finished. I said nothing about with honor.
Okay. Well,
I just said I finished. Yeah.
Well, we're doing it to raise support, and if your viewers are interested in tuning in, we have a site called www.maasaimarathon.com, and you can sponsor our team, and we're excited to build kind of a wide community of support.
I learned the hard way that if you're going to do this once, much less 2 or 3 times, you might as well do it for a worthy cause, because you're going to punish yourself, so you might as well do something good.
It's very much my motivation. When my shins feel like a sledgehammer has been taken to them, I'm thinking about the many people who are kicking in their support, and that's what will keep me going.
Well, congrats in advance on that.
Thank you.
Back to this documentary. I've been dying to ask you one question above all else. When you signed on to be a producer for this documentary, what was in your head? We all know now what became of this campaign, the historic nature of it, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody knew that necessarily when he first announced he was going to run. So what was in your head when you signed on to do this? What did you think you were going to get?
I want to give full credit to our directors, these 2 women who approached my company and with this idea before Senator Obama was a candidate, really just saying, you know, this guy represents our generation more than our parents' generation. He's the first who you could say from our generation has taken the national stage in a very dynamic way. And what they really proposed initially was a long-term, almost like political journal, following his experiences as he entered the Senate. So they actually proposed it to us in 2005. And I approached then Senator Obama in the early spring of 2006 about the idea of just chronicling over a long period of time, his whole first term in the Senate, his experiences, his encounter with the realities of politics and government ran up against his ideals and aspirations, and he was very receptive to it, as was Robert Gibbs, who was his press secretary then at the time, and that's how we embarked on it. We embarked on it really with no thought that it would be a film about a campaign.
So your timing could not have been more propitious.
It was very. We really caught lightning in a bottle in that sense, and the interesting thing is that Amy Rice and Alicia Sams, they began filming that spring, went to Kenya with him that summer on that trip, and they caught an inkling that the candidacy was being seriously considered late that summer, and came back to us and said, we think this is going to happen now, and we're really afraid that when it does, that our access, which had become very comfortable and familiar at that time, would be cut off. And so I I spoke with Barack again in the fall and said, listen, understandably, anyone who starts to advise you about this will insist that you stop what you're doing with us. And I said, I implore you to consider what an opportunity it will be to see, to be inside your candidacy, how much your candidacy will put a prism on the country, reveal so much about where we are in so many ways. And I said, look at it as a document for posterity, not to affect the campaign, not to exploit it in any way, but let us continue. And amazingly, he did. He really personally stood up for the idea when many of his advisors said, we don't think this is a good idea. And he took he defended it in a very personal way for us.
Did you get, having said that though, did you get pushback when things got a little tricky during the campaign? There any number of times I can...
Absolutely. We were not making a film for the campaign. We were not advocates for his campaign. We were trying to make a true documentary. We were trying to document the experiences of him, his senior advisors, and also the rank and file of the people who made this happen, the movement in some sense, and chronicle their experiences as these things occurred. So we weren't on their team, and we knew that meant that at times we were going to have to continue to plead our case for a special kind of access. And we formed very good relationships with Robert Gibbs and David Axelrod and David Plouffe, but yes, absolutely, many times. I'd say if I had a role as a producer, consistently it was to call and keep asking them to allow us to keep the cameras as close inside the process as possible.
Yeah. As you look back on this project now, and I'm sure there's a long answer to this question, but the short answer is what you saw uniquely from your perspective?
Well, our filmmakers were the ones out there day to day, month after month with the campaign. So, I was really working doing what a producer does, trying to make things easier for them,
begging.
Raise money, begging for access, all of those things. But I think for me, the thing that when I look at the film that I'm happiest about is that I feel that people will assess his presidency as a separate assessment of history, but the achievement of his election will never be diminished as an achievement. It was a moment of global political significance, and I think when I watch the film, I feel that what Amy and Alicia achieved with this documentary is they gave you a window inside how that actually took place, how that history actually came to the past, and how it was experienced by Obama and his own team. And when you set out to make documentary, in some sense, that's what you hope you'll get the chance to do, is chronicle something important that happened that gives us a piece of our own history.
I said there's a scene in the movie that basically says it to me, and I think we'll probably say it to those who will get a chance to see it on HBO. And I know this because I've been in campaigns before, but it's fascinating to hear a candidate say that he or she, while they're making this history, don't have any time really to assess it in the moment.
I know exactly the moment you're talking about. It's a throwaway moment, but it's a great moment when one of the two filmmakers, Alicia, says to him, "Have you had time to think about what's happening to you?" And he just says, "No, but I will." Yeah. It's a great. I got chills at that.
I raise that only because I suspect that while you were not on his team, so to speak, you were not doing this for the campaign. I suspect in some way this will be reflection time for him, for his family, and the entire campaign. To look back on what actually happened.
We showed it to President-elect Obama and Michelle and Axelrod and Plouffe and all of those guys now the country is familiar with before the inauguration, and they said exactly that. All of them said that it was incredible to be able to actually pause and look back at it, because in the moment that it was happening, each victory or new step, the demands of the next moment were so intense that they never had time to pause and look back. And I think in some ways I hope that that's echoed in the way that all of us at large, it did happen when it happened, you know, it surged forward, and now here we are dealing with healthcare and Afghanistan and all of it, and there's value sometimes, I think, in looking back on things that you haven't had time to be reflective about.